Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiara Banacha Ari Jamuna Tiara Banacha Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiara Banachari Yamuna Tiara Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiara Banachari Yamuna Tiara Banachari Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajakacharya Ostaterasa to Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabhajakacharya Ostaterasa to Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada Ki Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnava Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Temple of the Vedic Planetarium Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to you, Srila Prabhupada. What's next? What do we do next? Yes, just checking to see if they remembered. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I asked what's next because sometimes I ask the trick questions so that people will see if they're paying attention. And if there's a trick question and they wonder what is that, they have to listen carefully. Like when Bhakti True Maharaj would talk about, we have the dilemma that to go to Krishna Loka, we have to practice Raganuga Bhakti. But we're not qualified, so we practice Vaidhi Bhakti. He said, but that only takes us to Vaikuntha. And rather than just giving the answer, he presents all the things and people go, well, how do we fix this dilemma? So that when it comes around, they pay attention to it. And that's the whole thing. We don't want to miss the main part. I remember one devotee had fallen asleep during class and then he shook his eyes and said, what happened? I said, Prabhupada said that we shouldn't be thinking so much about business that we fall asleep even when the spiritual master is giving class. So he wasn't happy about missing that part. Okay, so today we are speaking from the 14th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 5, text 2. Is that correct? Should we take the one off and make it the 4th canto? Okay, good. How about text 2? Rudra Gitam Bhagavataha Stotram Sarve Prachetasaha Japatas Te Tapas Tepur Varshanam Ayutam Jale Rudragitam Bhagavataha Stotram Sarve Prachetasaha Japantas Te Tapas Tepur Varshanam Ayutam Jale Rudragitam Bhagavataha Stotram Sarve Prachetasaha Japantas Te Tapas Tepur Varshanam Ayutam Jale Rudragitam Bhagavataha Stotram Sarve Prachetasaha Japan Tapas Tapur Varshanam Ayutam Jale Rudragitam Bhagavataha Stotram Sarve Prachetasaha Japantas Te Tapas Tepur Varshanam Ayutam Jale Ladies, Vaishnavis, women. Rudragitam Tam Sarve Prachetasaha Word for word, Rudragitam, the song sung by Lord Shiva, Bhagavataha, of the Lord, Stotram, prayer, Sarve, all, Prachetasaha, the princes known as the Prachetas, Japantaha, reciting, Te, all of them, Tapa, austerity, Tepu, executed, Varshanam, of years, Ayutam, 10,000, Jale, within the water. That's how we attract people to come to the temple. Say, you want to come with us? We're going to do austerities underwater for 10,000 years. And they line up by the thousands to jump in the moat. Is that what happens? Maybe not, huh? Okay, we'll read the verse. All the Pracheta princes simply stood in the water for 10,000 years and recited the prayers given to them by Lord Shiva. Well, that's an easy one. So we just follow this. We get in the water and recite the prayers by Lord Shiva for 10,000 years. Boy, that's simple, isn't it? Let's repeat that. All of the Pracheta princes simply stood in the water for 10,000 years and recited the prayers given to them by Lord Shiva. Look at that. Simply stood in the water for 10,000 years. Simply? That's easy for them to say, right? Anybody else to say that? I'm going to simply stand in the water for 10,000 years. No one volunteers for that? Okay, we'll read the purport by Srila Prabhupada and listen to some of these points, because this is the point. Something in here about these instructions and instructions for us. Of course, in the modern age, one may be amazed how the princess could stand in water for 10,000 years. However, living within air or living with water is the same process. One simply has to learn how to do it. See, it's simple. The aquatics live within water for their whole lifespan. Certain favorable conditions are created to enable them to live within water. In those days, however, people used to live for 100,000 years. Out of so many years, if one could spare 10,000 years for the sake of austerity, he would be assured of success in his future life. This was not very astonishing. Although such a feat is impossible in this age, it was quite possible in Satya Yuga. Amazing. Because Prabhupada said when Jai Prabhupada Namo Vishnu Padaya Prabhupada had gotten way ahead in the translating of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we wondered why he did this so quickly. But what had happened, he was always one step ahead. They say that in Mauritius, he braced himself like a minute before the accident. And once these two girls came from Mumbai to Nairobi, and they wanted to stay in the temple. So we called up Prabhupada, because the family had come to Nairobi and complained to some of the life members that they didn't want them in the temple. So we called up Prabhupada in Amsterdam. And Prabhupada says, yes, I've already sent you a letter discussing what to do about this. Well, how did he send a letter about what hadn't happened yet? Just like in Mumbai, just before I was initiated, Prabhupada said to Guru Das, go out in the crowd and get that Western yogi. You couldn't see any Western yogi. A couple of minutes later, Prabhupada says, go out and get the Western yogi. We don't see someone there. It's just like if I'm saying, go out and bring Vibhu Chaitanya into the temple. Well, Vibhu Chaitanya's not here. They say, no, go out and get him. And a couple of minutes later, he shows up. How did I know that? And this is something the Tattvadarshanas know. Once, Prabhupada's sister, we were talking with her, and the nephews were translating. And the one nephew said, at one time, Prabhupada did not want to be Krishna conscious. And then she immediately said something. And the nephew says, oh, that's not true. She said, Prabhupada always wanted to be Krishna conscious. I said, does she speak English? They said, no, that's why we're translating. I said, then how did she know what you'd said? But somehow Krishna let her know right away that that was never true. Prabhupada was always interested in being Krishna conscious. And that's why we have to be careful not to have something lost in translation and look to those who are actually in touch with it. So they were producing one book every couple of months, and there was 15 or more books left to do. And they said to Prabhupada, well, we can do a book a month and a half. And Prabhupada says, no, you must do them all within a month and a half. And Rameshwar says, that's impossible. Prabhupada says, impossible is the word in the Fool's Dictionary. So he was saying that was not impossible. But this is impossible. If this is impossible, how is the verse talking about the Prachetive princess stood in the water for 10,000 years and recited prayers for austerities? If this is not possible, how is the Srimad Bhagavatam recommending it? Does this seem like a contradiction? If this is not possible today, why is this being recommended by Lord Shiva to stand in the water for 10,000 years? Is it a contradiction? Was Lord Shiva wrong to present this process to them? Or is Prabhupada wrong by saying this process is impossible? This is sort of a dilemma, isn't it? What's the answer to this? What does that mean? The time, place, and circumstances. You have to consider that. Like in January, in Norway, having a snowplow is a very advantageous thing. And every municipality must have a snowplow to plow the snow off the streets. Therefore, Durban should also have a snowplow because Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Greenland have these things because they need to clear the snow off the street in January. But according to this time, place, and circumstances, do you need a snowplow here in January? You probably never need it, but if you ever need it in this place, it wouldn't be in January, would it? So we have to look at the time, the place, and the circumstances. Just like when someone goes to the doctor, you don't ask other people, well, what did you do when you were sick? Well, I took this medicine, but it may be the wrong medicine. You need to find out what's there. So we study the Bhagavatam and we understand this, but this is in a different age. In the Satya Yuga, the Lord comes in a white color and gives this process of transcendental meditation. If you live for 100,000 years, you can dedicate 10% towards that. Just like if somebody makes 100 billion rand in a year, they can give 10 billion rand to the temple, right? Does that mean everyone can do it? Not necessarily, because according to their circumstances, they're not capable. So then the Lord comes in the red color in the Treta Yuga and gives the process of big sacrifices, huge amounts of grain and ghee. And in the Dwarpa Yuga, the Lord comes in a blackish, bluish color and gives the process of deity worship. So which one of those three is applicable as the main process for this age? Is it transcendental meditation? Is it the big sacrifices? Or is it solely doing deity worship? Which one of those three is the process for this age? Which one? Is it A, B, or C? Which one? No one has the answer? We'll have to defer to Jai Satchidanand. What is the answer? A? The transcendental meditation for 10,000 years? Or is it D, none of the above? D. Well, but these are three processes recommended. How could it be none of the above? We don't do any process? What's the answer then? Normally the Lord comes in the Kali Yuga and he gives the process of Harinam Sankirtan. And usually, who is the avatar for the Kali Yuga? Who can tell me? No one knows? In most Kali Yugas, who is the avatar? Who knows? No. That's one time out of 1,000 after Krishna appears in the original form. So if it's not Chaitanya and the Lord appears in the golden color, then who is it? Someone know? It's Gaur Narayan. Now why don't we talk about that? Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was 500 years or so ago. Considering that a day and a night of Brahma are 8,640,000,000 years. What would be more relevant? Something that happened 8,640,000,000 years ago, or something that happened 500 years ago? Which would you say? The older is always better? What happened 500 years ago would be more relevant. So in this age, we get a special mercy. The Lord comes as Lord Chaitanya, and he gives the process for this age. So this is why we are lucky to be in the disciplic succession of someone who is bringing the Yuga Dharma for this age. What if somebody shows up here from Norway with the snowplows, and he is the most expert person on snowplow manufacture, snowplow maintenance, and snowplow usage? Should you study from him how to get a job in Durban, since he is the expert in this equipment? He's the world-renowned expert in snowplows. So if you learn from him about snowplows, you will be the one to operate the snowplow in Durban, correct? But what is the problem? Back to the time, the place, and the circumstance. It's not applicable for this time and place and circumstance. So now you've learned a whole process which isn't going to help you. You can show people how to go underwater for years, and it's all like Prabhupada says, on different planets. They're starting to come out with this on the internet. People think that on Venus there's no life because there's a thick atmosphere. But they say this thick atmosphere is because it's closer to the sun, and that takes out some of the heat so it's not as hot. And maybe there on the heavenly planet, they don't want people to see what they're doing. If you go by some, like in the area of Mount Edgecombe, they have a big wall there, so you can't see what's going on in there. So if you can't see what's going on, no one's in there? Is that what it means? Sometimes people have a big mansion, there's a big wall in front, and you can't see anyone. That means no one is there? No, it means they've arranged a way so that they don't want people to see. And we think that the conditions we have, we can't live in a very hot climate, and we can't live underwater, correct? Therefore, life underwater is not possible. Everyone is thinking that their situation is the only one that's possible. That's why I think when the fish come up and they look at the people, they said, how are those people surviving outside of water? Just like we think we can't survive in water, they think people can't survive outside of water. Now they may be looking for food, but that's another way to look at it. So Krishna may give them the condition that they can stay underwater for 10,000 years, whereas you're lucky if you can stay under for 10 minutes. So we can't compare ourselves to other people. We have to follow in the disciplic session and practice the teachings of Bhagavad Gita as given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and given by us according to time, place, and circumstances by Srila Prabhupada. Even though other things may be applicable, just like a person may go to the doctor with a different condition and get a different regimen and a different prescription. But you need to go to yours. You don't take their medicine, do you? You go to your doctor and find out what you need. And so this is the process that we need to follow, the right time, place, and circumstances. 10,000 years underwater may be a little difficult for someone to do. I'll tell you what, we'll cut it down to 10%. All you got to do is spend 1,000 years in water. Who's ready for that? Underwater. So that is why we need the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, because many people try to do these processes. They rely on doing the Agnihotra sacrifice for everything, which we do it when there's a wedding and there's initiation, but we don't do it every day, and we don't do it when there's a difficulty. We do it to open the temple, but Prabhupada says the chanting of the holy names is more important. In the Brihad Naradiya Purana, does it say that there's many processes for Kali Yuga, and one of them is the chanting of the holy names? Or does it say Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevalam, Kalur Nasteva, 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 Gatir Anyataha? In this age of Kali, there is no other process, no other process, no other process except the chanting of the holy names. If they said it 3 times, is that kind of an accent? Like sometimes I would ask certain people, do you want to give class? When they say no, 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 when they say it 3 times or more, what does that mean? Definitely means no. And someone says, no, maybe not. Like quite a few people says, oh, no. They start a sentence with no, but it doesn't necessarily mean no. But if they say no 3 times, it means no, doesn't it? It definitely means that. So in this process, there is no other process. And people are talking about, well, it was given here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Brahma meditated for a long time, but maybe we weren't born connected to a stem. Maybe we were, but our stem was not connected to Vishnu. So we see in this age that there's a whole nother condition. And just like I was saying before, that Prabhupada says, can see things that we don't see. Generally, the problem, people have a hard time believing in things. People don't believe in the potency of the holy names. Why? Because they haven't tried it. People don't believe in a new medicine because if we didn't have it before, it can't be possible. They have the theory, if you can't see it, it doesn't exist. Let's take that theory as being true for a second. The microwaves go into your cell phone so that you can send and receive messages, correct? And if you can't see it, it doesn't exist, that means your cell phone can't work. So I guess that theory is proven invalid because you don't have to be able to see or hear it. They have the dog whistle, they blow it and you can't hear it. So that means it's not making a noise? No. The dogs hear it. Just like sometimes we use the poison for the rats, but they have a signal that goes out that makes the rats leave, and we can't hear it, but the rats hear it. So, because our senses are imperfect, just like when people are colorblind, they can't see green, because green takes a certain amount of rods and cones in the eye, and if they see less, it comes out brown. So it doesn't mean that's what the color is. We see the tiger as being orange. Most of them see the tiger as being green. That way the tiger can hide. So, someone said, what does Prabhupada mean by this? Prabhupada emphasized the chanting of the holy names and the process we need to do for this age. And especially how Lord Chaitanya and Bhaktisiddhanta wanted to spread the chanting of the holy names to every town and village. Lord Chaitanya took a walk and went all the way around India, spreading the holy names. Have any of our devotees walked all the way around India? Yes, they have. My friend Tukaram, Laguna Beach, the temple president, because he's a disciple of Lokanath Swami, the Padayatra walks all the way around India. Takes a while, but they do it. And so someone said, what does Prabhupada mean? He says here that we can use all the forms of communication we have, including the future forms of communication that haven't come out yet. Some people go by some old standards. They think that since potatoes were not natural to India and tomatoes were not, that means we can't offer them to Krishna. But does Krishna say that? He says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam. Offer me a leaf, a fruit, a flower, or water. He doesn't say you can't offer the food that didn't grow in India. It's not an Indian religion. It's the Sanatan Dharma. People say, well, we're Hindus. We follow the Hindu process. But Hindu is not mentioned in the Vedic literatures anyway. It's mentioned by the Muslims. The Hindus are people who live by the Sindus River. And the Sindhu River's in Pakistan. Therefore, a Hindu today would mean someone who lives in Pakistan, wouldn't it? But that isn't what it means, is it? So he says we can use the future forms of communication. So you can't say, well, Prabhupada didn't send emails. Prabhupada didn't send things out over the internet. Some people actually think, well, we should shut down the sites to send the classes over the internet, because then all those people will come to the temple. Is that true? How many people watch the class sometimes? What's that? 1,000. So if you shut that down, that means 1,000 people will come to Bhagavatam class? You're sure? You're pretty sure? I don't think 1,000 would come. So it's not a good idea. You may want to encourage people to come, but you offer different options. Just like if it's a long road from the beginning of Karma Yoga to the end of Bhakti Yoga. Prabhupada says that we go in like a needle, come out like a plow. Maybe the highest thing is for someone to become a sannyasi or a brahmachari and live here at the temple, or be a householder and come for Mangal Arti or come for class. But not everybody can make it. So it is a good, do you think the 1,000 people would show up? I was wondering this yesterday. I gave the Namhata at Phoenix, and maybe 36, 40 people came. So I asked, Taryn was putting it over the internet. She's the daughter of Neela Madhava. And I said, how many did you get watching it on the internet? She said 326. Which might mean more, because sometimes the husband and wife will watch it together, or the people and their children will watch it together. It doesn't tell you this one has 2 people, this one has 4. It means that many computer sites were watching it. Even if we accept that each one was only being watched by one, maybe there's a husband and wife and 2 children, maybe they're each watching it all on their own computers. Even if we accept that, there was 326 on there. So it means at least 326 people were watching it. Now, if you shut down the site, would 326 extra people come besides the 40 to the Tuesday night Namhata in Phoenix? Just like the 1,000 people come here if the internet is down? No, it's not true. So while you want to encourage people to come more often and do the whole thing, it's like Prabhupada says, you read 1 chapter, you read 1 page, you read something. The idea is to get people started. You just come to the temple and watch what we're doing. Sometimes we try to push things too far. It's a delicate balance because, as Prabhupada says, it's a long road from the beginning of Karma Yoga to the end of Bhakti Yoga. So when we first meet people, is the important thing to get them to the end of Bhakti Yoga and pure devotional service? Is that what you tell when you meet people on the street or they first come to the Sunday feast? First thing is to get them to want to come. And when they come once, get them to want to come back. If a child goes to school the first day in the first grade, is that enough? Or do you want to convince them they need to keep coming? I remember when I finished the first grade, then we had summer. My mother says, okay, it's time for school. I said, school? I did that last year. But do you know there was a 2nd grade? And then there was a 3rd grade. Some people in this country don't go that far. But that's another topic. But at least you get started. The difference is that if you quit education here, you may not take it up again at 40 and 50. But for some people, if they chant once, eat some prasadam, or get 1 book, it may save them from the danger of going to a hellish planet or going down to the animal kingdom. And for some people, maybe that's a big boon. Just like if someone goes to the prison, sometimes they let them out early and they're on parole. Say they don't get the best job, but they follow the conditions of parole and don't go back to prison. Hey, that's a good start for them, isn't it? That's a good start. So sometimes we have to see that if people are making progress, we have to be happy with what progress they have, and at the same time help them to move, even if people move at different speeds. We have to be expert at knowing. Like Prabhupada says, the leader is someone who knows that the process of devotional service is independent, voluntary, and self-motivated. But the expert leader needs to encourage that, especially when you have people that are doing service that don't live in the temple. Say they have a job and they come to do service. You can't threaten them. You have to encourage them to want to come. Whereas if they're in the temple and they don't do any service, they shouldn't be living there. It's a different circumstance. So you have to make people want to come. And if they want to come, it's a whole different situation. So we have to understand that. The instructions of Prabhupada and Rupa Goswami, how we reveal our mind to others, they reveal their mind in confidence, and then we put it on Facebook and make it look just a little worse. Right? Is that what we do? Like if I say, yes, Madhurya Kadambini came to the temple for Mangal Artik. She organized the morning program. She came to the class, she ate prasadam, and then she stole somebody's car and drove away. Most of it's true, right? So the last part has to be true also, because if the first 6 things are true, the last one must be true. Because you saw her get in the car and drive away. She doesn't have a car. Obviously, she stole a car, correct? But it may not be the whole truth. Somebody said, if I give you my car, can you do the shopping for the deities? And she went to the store and bought the things. But if you just add a couple things and take it out, you can make things look much worse. But that isn't how we act in here. I was thinking that when we went to the Goshala. We got a little mix-up because one person didn't have the phone, and the other person got on the phone. We're lost, looking around, and she says, we're driving around in circles, we're lost. And then hung up. And the people are wondering, well, okay, this is truthful information, but it's not helpful. Sometimes the Indians like to talk in tautologies. Like you ask, where is Sarup Damodar? Oh, he is somewhere else, but he will be back after some time. Well, that's true, but where else and after how much time? It's not helpful. So then when they called her back and said, where are you? We're on the road. What are you passing? She said, buildings. So again, they're all true. And we ended up a little late to the Goshala, and it was raining, and there was probably only 45, 50 people there. Well, Terrence sent me how many people had viewed that online. How many people do you think viewed it online? Who has a figure? What do you think? How many? 200 you said? You're guessing 200. Someone like to guess a little higher? You figure if 50 people were there and 36 were at the other place and 326 came, it must be like 10 times the number, like 500, right? Does that sound reasonable? You know how many viewed it since then? 8,000. Now, if we'd shut down the internet site, that means that 8,000 people would have come to the Goshala? No? You're pretty sure? It is possible, but it's not probable, right? Probably 8,000. If we got lost going to the Goshala, if other people weren't even aware of it till it went online, and maybe some of them saw it a day or two later, even if they knew where the Goshala was, if they went the next day, would they make the class? It's like right now, if you drove to the temple at 10 in the morning, would you make this class? If you went on the website, could you make the class? Yes? You could, couldn't you? So even though we like people to come, it's good to have different options for people to do. That's why quite often with many religions, what they do is they lower the standard. So you can drink alcohol, it's okay, even the priests do. And You only have to come once a week, but you have to come every Sunday. And so they lower the standard here, but make everybody do this. So which one do we do? Do we lower the standard, or do we make everyone come on Sunday? Neither one. We have the different standards, like different grades in a school. You can't say that since there's a first standard up to college, what we'll do is just put everyone in the 8th grade. That's too little for some and too much for others. We have people here that become sannyasis and dedicate their whole life. Other people are brahmacharis and they're here every day. Some people are householders and come every day. Some people come several times a week. Some people come on Sundays. Some people come just once in a while. Which ones do we facilitate? All of them. Just like the store. Some people may go down and shop every week a huge amount for their restaurant. Other people may go down there once a month just to buy a couple items. Which one does the store accept? The store accepts all of them. Even though you may want people to do more, it's a good thing to get people to do something. So it helps us to understand, to be like Prabhupada, where he followed perfectly that. If we look in the 12th chapter, it talks about the things that are dear to Krishna. When I gave the class, I think it was January 4th. No, it was the one before that, where we talked about verses 13 and 14, one who is a kind friend to all living entities. And the next one, Krishna says that one who is not disturbed by others and doesn't put others into difficulty is very dear to me. And some of these we can follow, some of them we have to work on. The next one is a little difficult for me, where someone says that he was not attached to the ordinary course of activities. I see we have the people like Bhakti Chaitanya Swami, Radhanath Swami, my friend Tukaram in Laguna Beach. Sometimes they're in a circumstance where they're able to wake up and do the early morning sadhana. Sometimes they're out doing later night preaching programs and they're not as able to do that. They adjust easily. Sometimes that's harder for me. I get used to waking up very early to chant. And then, like the last few days when I did the later night namhatas, then it's hard because it seems like I can't wake up as early as I'd like, but it's hard to sleep in as late as I need to. So it's a little bit hard. Generally, we try to regulate ourselves, but we find someone who's not attached to the ordinary course of activities is very dear to Krishna. So does that mean for most devotees, we don't become attached to the ordinary activities and we don't stay regulated? No, it doesn't mean that, because they're regular activities, sadhana. We try to follow that. But we find that when the circumstance comes up and something else is important, we have to break and do that. Sometimes a joke, they say, how many brahmacharis does it take to put in a light bulb? What's the answer? I don't know, it's not my service. Because you have to just go by whatever the schedule says. Just like when Mother Radhanath was on fire. Someone says, Mother Radhanath Sari is on fire. Someone needs to go help her put the fire out and take her to the hospital. You say, well, that's not on my service roster today. Is that what you say? The building's on fire. Call the fire department and help Mother Radhanath put out the fire on her sari and take her to the hospital. You say, I'm sorry, that's not on my service roster. Is that true? Or if there's an emergency, we have to drop all that and take care of the devotees in need. So since that's true, do we not take care of our regular schedule, thinking I better wait outside in case there's an emergency? No, it means we do the regular schedule, but if something happens out of the ordinary, we may change our plans. It's like when the conch shell blows, what do? We engage in the kirtan and the mangalartik. When the class is going on, we sit in the class. And here's a question that's on the real estate exam in America. What do we do in the temple when the floor joists and the ceiling joists are becoming contiguous? What do we do then, Jai Sachinanda? What's that? What do we do when the floor joists and the ceiling joists are becoming contiguous? Yes, show it again, Tim. What do we do when the floor joists and ceiling joists are becoming contiguous? Do we A, have kirtan, B, continue with class, C, evacuate the building immediately? Evacuate the building immediately. So does that mean we should evacuate now? No, because that's if the emergency situation happened. So what we have to do is follow the regular course of activities. But when something else happens, you can't say, oh, the roof is caving in. No, it's time for Bhagavatam class. No, what we have to do is evacuate the building then. So for most of us, it's better to try to have regular activities. Some of these can be hard when we have namhatas on some nights and we have early morning on others. So sometimes we need to break the schedule. But generally we should try to have a schedule. We had one verse, the last time I gave a class, it says one should rise early in the morning. What does that mean? You say I can rise at noon because it's early in the morning somewhere? Isn't that what Swami Hajpajananda, the Concoction Society, says? What you do is you find the verse and you reinterpret it in a way that benefits you. Is that what we do? Is that what many people do? It is. Many people do that. They try to think of ways to concoct things that come for their benefit. So we have to realize that and hear that even though Prabhupada says impossible is the word in a fool's dictionary, it may be impossible. Well, it may be possible for a few to stay underwater for 10,000 years. Raise your hand if that's you. Who's been underwater for 10,000 years? Who lies down in what is what's possible for others may not be possible for you. There's one person who lays down in water for trillions of years, and universes come out of his body. So if that's possible for that person, is it possible for you? That person gives salvations to the enemies he kills. He's the source of all incarnations. Are these things possible for you? So if they're not possible for you, they must be impossible? No, that's the whole point. Even like Brahma, it was not possible for him to expand as all the cows and the cowherd boys. So he couldn't understand how it was possible. Now, if we can't understand how something is possible, does that mean it's not possible? Doesn't mean that. And if someone else like Vishnu is possible of laying on the water for trillions of years and having universes come out of his body, does that mean that it's possible for him? No, it doesn't mean that. That's why we follow our particular spiritual master and the things that are prescribed for us. The symptoms of your disease and the cure may be on the internet. So if someone's sick, isn't it better to just go on the internet and look for your symptoms and determine what you have? Wasn't that better than going to a doctor? The one doctor was telling me that, who was here when I was giving class on Sunday. Usually he's at Phoenix. But he said it's amazing. People said, well, I have this disease because I checked out the symptoms on the internet. That's why we tell the mind that we can engage in devotional service and we can surrender to Krishna, because the mind believes it. You start reading about different kinds of diseases, it's amazing what you think you can have that you don't really have. It's amazing how much trouble we can believe we're in, or how much Krishna consciousness we are, just by looking at the symptoms. So we don't look for the symptoms, we look to the authorities. And we realize, as it's said here, that's why the purports are important. And we just do the best we can do Just like I'm happy to see that there are so many devotees that are more advanced than me. That it made me happy that I stayed here when the things were difficult. Because I was told I needed to leave the country, and when they finally caught me, I was in risk of being shot or thrown off a roof or going to a jail. So when they threw me out of the country, that was the best of all possibilities. And the only reason I got that instead of jail is that I told them my visa was not here. They gave the visas on a separate piece of paper, so I took it out. They said, "Where's your visa?" I said, "It's coming in 3 days." So I knew that within that 3 days, I had to pay off the debt to the book fund and get someone else here to take over and get myself a ticket from my mother so that when they came back for me, someone else was here, the book debt was paid, and I would probably get thrown out. Still took all day to decide whether I was going to jail or getting thrown out. Generally, we want people to want us to stay around. But that time I didn't want to stay around because I'd stay around in a jail. And here they would lock people up and throw away the key. Here they locked them, now they locked them up and let them out too early or don't let them out at all. Neither extreme is good, but back then they could just decide that you violated the National Security Act by having meetings with more than 11 people and there was mixed race involved. They could just decide that that made you a terrorist and you get locked up for an indefinite amount of time. But we see that bringing the instructions of Prabhupada are what's important. And that's why it took a while to bring Prabhupada here. That's why that visa on the separate piece of paper is good. Because if you were from India, you couldn't come to South Africa. And South Africa did not allow Indians to come. So you had a double dilemma. South Africa passport said allowed for all countries except South Africa. If it had a list of 20 of them, it might have been some kind of an exception. But to get Prabhupada the permission to come and to get Prabhupada the visa, this was a big task. And that's why we had the 50-year anniversary of Prabhupada's visit, and we had the 10-year. We do it every 10 years. The temple was opened 10 years later. So the temple was opened 40 years ago, and it was a grand celebration. And the celebration still goes on every day. So we have to realize ways to expand it, and we have to realize that in some ways, a few less people are coming to the temple, but by having books in people's houses and opening it up to the internet, what if we said, you don't get to read the books except here, and you can't watch the class over the internet? That way more people will come here to read books and come to the class. Maybe a few more, but you wouldn't have gotten an extra 326 to come to the Phoenix Temple on Tuesday night in the rain. And you wouldn't have gotten 8,000 extra people to come to the Goshala that we almost got lost going to. And you wouldn't get as many people who have books to come here and read them. So while we encourage people to come to the temple, we also have to have other things available. So in 2 days, I will be leaving, and you'll do well without my bad association. I'm contaminated by the modes of nature, but I was given pills for this. And we find in spite of our condition, just like we may be not able to catch on fire, but we find that if we touch our sari or dhoti to the fire, we can catch on fire very quickly. Just like the iron rod is not fire, but if you put it in the fire, you can touch it to paper or cloth and it will catch on fire. So even if we're contaminated, if we get in the fire of Krishna consciousness, we can become Krishna conscious ourselves. That's why they say that if a dog eater becomes a devotee and processes the practices, he's better than someone born in a Brahmin family who doesn't practice devotional service. Oh, it's like they make this saying, pretty is as pretty does. It's not what family we're born in, it's what we're doing that counts. So we will end there, and I will be gone in a couple days to go to Johannesburg, and then to Mayapur and Vrindavan, And a little over 2 months later, I go back to America. Hare Krishna. People saw the Goshala.